So let's start, which I equate to fake ass American justice. Now, before I begin and talk about this Bill Cosby thing, I'm going to take you back in history a little bit. In fact, I'm going to take you back down the deep south, kangaroo courts, Beverly Hillbilly, Jed Clampett, kangaroo hung courts, when a black man was hung, tar and feather, drugged behind redneck trucks because a white woman said he raped her or sexually assaulted her. Time during Mandingo, which you are sneaking her black African lovers into her bedroom because her husband was in the slave shacks screwing slave women. And how we derived to have so many mixed cultures down south. And this is the forefront of your racist, bigoted, incest, inbreed hatred of people of color. Now I want to talk to you like educated people. Illiterate, rednecks, trailer park, backwoods America, Appalachian Mountain, Piney, New Jersey, rednecks need not listen because you won't get it anyway. You ain't got the brains to understand what I'm talking about. And I base what I'm talking about on the fact that you live in a stolen country of once again the injustice against people of color. That you stole their country, raped, pillaged, massacred, slaughtered, genocide. And this is how you progress to be what you call the United States of America, which in all intents and purposes is about as false as your flying flag is about as false as your constitution is about as false as your corrupt terrorist laws are, from your diseased European white filth from Spain and England. First of all, criminal terrorists of invasion of an occupied country can't say one word about justice because you don't know or you don't have a clue of what justice is. And you never did from your inception. So let's dabble into this Bill Cosby thing. Nobody's saying he's innocent. Nobody didn't say he took advantage of certain women. But what the media is not telling you is that what woman is going to be in a man's hotel room 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? Or what woman who is married is going to be associated with a man? These Hollywood sluts, whores, who want to advance their careers in Hollywood will use any avenue they can, and giving up sexual favors in all intents and purposes, inept, ignorant, reprobated morons. It's not anything new. It goes on every day. It's like it goes on in Fortune 500 America, corporate America. You're on your knees or on your backs doing favors to get advancement in corporate America. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand this whole movement about women talking about sexual harassment. I get that because women didn't even have a voice years ago, just like minorities didn't have a voice years ago. You couldn't even have the right to vote. I get that. You didn't have the right to own your own house, to even make decisions of anything because you were classified as a servant, a subservient idiot that took orders from your husband. I get that. I get all of that. But what I don't get is the hypocrisy. And when I talk about this hypocrisy, I'm talking about there's one justice for a class of people and there's another justice for another class of people. And that goes on in America all the time. This I can't even call it America. This fake ass America. It goes on all the time. The more money you have, the less you're going to get indicted, the less you're going to get convicted of any crime because you pay judges off, you pay prosecuting attorneys, you pay police, you pay the FBI, you pay Central Intelligence, the 17 agencies. You got enough money, you can get away with anything. In fact, you exist above the law, which is no law anyway, because you live in a stolen country of theft and genocide, which is inhumane, criminal, barbaric, uncivilized action. So no justice, first of all, can exist in such an environment. Now let's touch bases on Bill Cosby. If he's guilty of sexual assault, let him do the time. I don't have a problem with that. But here's my point. Of all the raping and sexual assaults that went on in the villages of Native America, in the slave camps down south, in the backwoods in Northern America, that you knew went on for decades and centuries, yet and still you did nothing. But here, decades and centuries later, you got a black man you want to throw out to the wolves. Because once again, you got white women involved. There's a percentage of black women too, but mostly white. Which all intents, as far as I'm concerned, are sluts and whores anyway. Just like this Leanne Tweeden. Or Melania Trump. Don't tell me you're going to lay on your back and pose naked and show the world your tits and ass, and then you're gonna claim some morality act of sexual harassment or sexual abusement. Come on, man. Nobody's that stupid. If you're a slut and whore, that's what you are. You're a slut and whore. Just be what you are. That ain't no common decent woman. It's gonna be in some man's hotel room 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And you're not gonna look for some kind of favor to advance your career. You're gonna work hard at it. Like every other person. I'm not saying he's innocent. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you're going to go after a black man for sexual harassment, then you need to go after your president of the United States, because he's guilty of the same crimes. You go after your directors, your movie producers, your movie actors, your agents who represent women, all that are guilty of the same thing. Now, you want to open up Pandora's box and using a one black man as a sacrificial lamb. I get that. But the fact of the matter is, you're just as guilty as he is. And you've got a president who's sexually obsessed with his own daughter, who cheated on his wife when she was pregnant, having his child. And bribing this whore to keep her mouth shut. And your Kennedy family too. And your Clintons. And your Bushes. See, that's the fact of the matter. That you monkeys and sheep will never get. You get on this bandwagon of moral code when they throw a person in front of your face, in all intents and purposes, which happens to be a black man. But white men have done this shit for decades and centuries. That's okay with you. And are still doing it, but that's okay with you. But all of a sudden now you want to throw these producers and businessmen, Matt Lauers and everybody else, this sexual harassment crap. But years and years and years and years and years ago, it was accepted because white men did it. You get my point. Don't talk about sexual harassment. Don't talk about women's rights and all this other bullshit when, in all intents and purposes, it went on for decades and centuries. And all of a sudden now that in 2018 you want to stand up for your rights, and you couldn't stand up for your rights back then at the same way you're standing up for your rights now? Yeah, you could, but you kept your mouth shut. And I get that when you go before a judge, which the judge is crooked anyway, in a crooked European disease, white filth justice system that ain't worth a damn, it ain't worth the paper it's written on. I get that. They're going to expose you of any sexual act that you had and make you seem like you're the one who's at fault. I get that. But the same attitude you have now, why couldn't you have that attitude years and years and years ago? Why now? Why in 2018 you wanna stand up for those rights? The time when women got their vote, or the right to vote, so-called right to vote. How come you didn't stand up for it then? And then you have your queens and you had your extreme wealthy women using men for sexual favors. Big wigs, women in corporate America who has high profile jobs and positions. Sexually harass men, but you don't hear about that. See, you only, like always, you only give bits and pieces. This is what I hate. In fact, I abhor the media, how you just give bits and pieces of the truth, but you won't investigate or indulge in what really goes on. Women are just as much as in fault as men are. And I'm not saying innocent women. I'm not saying women who have who has a true moral code. But you got these sluts out of here crying wolf like they're a victim. But you're posing naked for Playboy, Hustler magazine, certain movies and everything else, showing your tits and ass. But there's nothing wrong with that, right? Would you want your daughters to be out there doing the same thing? Of course not. That's the problem I have with all this bullshit. because you have a double standard. That's the hypocrisy that I speak of. Because y'all get on this bandwagon, you'll take a man, and you have women that at the time didn't say a damn thing, but all of a sudden this whole agenda of one person comes out. What's up there, boy? Then you got 11 others going to follow suit because it's a payday. Let's tell it for what it is. It's a payday. The man is old. And if he does go to prison, which I don't think he's going to go to prison anyway, he'll die there. So what's the fuck the point that you're trying to prove? When you got white men in Hollywood, white men in corporate America doing the exact same thing he did. You got a president that's doing the exact same thing he did. You got people in Congress doing the exact same thing he did. You got congressmen with sexual acts with their male pages. Pedophiles, child molesters in the Vatican. That once again, here we go. And here's another fact. You ripped Bill Cosby across the media, but you got the Pope, which holds almost the highest position as a fucking president of the United States. That you have priests and popes, pedophiles and child molesters and rapists of nuns. You have basement babies that they hide. But you say nothing about this. Not one priest has gotten convicted of the decades and centuries of child molesting and pedophiles and rape. But you want to throw a black man under the bus. That's the hypocritical bullshit that I'm talking about. Now you can sit in your private homes and be all judgmental as you want. And you take your white asses and your black asses to church and watch this crap goes on for decades and centuries and say nothing about it. But you'll exploit one black man in this tell-all media bullshit. But when it comes to people who really have money, who really have power, you don't say shit. That's the reprobates that you are. That's what pisses me off. It's not that I'm not saying the man is innocent. I'm just saying if you're going to do for one, then do it for all. And that's where your so-called justice sucks. And it's bullshit. Because the more money you make, the more you get away with. Like this piece of Scottish filth, adolescent tweeting, orange face, fat ass McDonald eating bastard that you call president. Hold him to the same accountability that you hold Bill Cosby. Because if not, your law is bullshit. It's like your founding fathers were nothing but a bunch of fucking criminals and thieves and murderers. They ain't found shit. They invaded. Don't get me started, because I'm appalled by this bullshit. And the fact of the matter is, it's never going to happen. So I tell you what, you and your justice system, kiss my ebony black ass.